This week in Pennsylvania, Attorney General candidates face off in our studios. We'll discuss how the Democrats and Republicans fared in the debates. Plus, Dennis Owens will join us live from Erie to talk to their state senator, Dan Laughlin, about marijuana legalization and open primaries. Hello, welcome to This Week in Pennsylvania. I'm James Crummell. Dennis Owens will join us in just a little bit. It was a big week in Harrisburg. We hosted the state attorney general candidates for debates on Tuesday. The 5 Democrats vying to take the open seat debated without many attacks. But there were definitely fireworks 2 days later when the 2 Republican candidates squared off in their first statewide televised debate. We'll discuss all of it coming up. But first, political headlines from this week. We have new Pennsylvania polls about which candidates Pennsylvanians prefer right now in 2 major races. New Emerson College and The Hill polling numbers show Trump leading Biden by just under 4 points here in PA. 12% still undecided. The margin of error is 3. Now, in the U.S. Senate race that could decide the balance of power in D.C., incumbent Democrat Bob Casey leads Republican challenger Dave McCormick by just under 4, with 14% still undecided. Governor Josh Shapiro is touting his new energy plan. First, he made a stop in Scranton on Wednesday. Then he visited Concordia Energy in Harrisburg on Thursday. His plan would require power plants to purchase credits from the Commonwealth to emit carbon. It would also require the state to get half of its electricity from different energy sources, preferably clean energy sources.
It's going to incentivize innovation. It's going to help us move more toward clean energy. And it's going to create, as this makes clear, thousands of good-paying jobs in the process. Thousands more people like these folks who are doing the important energy work every day. Thousands more jobs.
Republicans have criticized the plan, saying it will cost Pennsylvanians more money. All right, as if he wasn't busy enough this week moderating 2 statewide debates, our Dennis Owens has made his way to Erie right now. He joins us live. First, Dennis, I want to say congratulations. Great job on 2 spirited debates. You did a great job wrangling everybody up. But you also have a special guest with you, State Senator Dan Laughlin.
I do indeed. About the debates, we all should be happy that there's a great number of good quality candidates for us to choose from. Democracies require good candidates, and they require us to have good elected officials. We're sitting next to Dan Laughlin, state senator from Erie. We want to thank the folks at WJET. This studio is very, very nice. They're our hosts here today. First of all, let's talk about Erie. Erie's one of those bellwethers they always talk about that the whole nation looks at when they're trying to, read the tea leaves of what people are thinking across the whole nation. Why is that?
Well, Dennis, I appreciate you being here. And one of the things is that Erie, Pennsylvania is like this little island of average people, right?
You have a good nickname for it, by the way.
I do, actually. Thanks for teeing that up. It's the Maui of the mainland.
Maui of the mainland. I wasn't thinking Maui when I pulled in, but okay, Go ahead.
So, Erie, Pennsylvania is this little enclave of just kind of average Americans. They get up in the morning, they pack a lunch, go to work. They worry about having good schools and safe streets and pretty normal American stuff, right? And that's why we're viewed as kind of the stereotypical, I guess, county in America.
But, like in 16 it goes Trump, and 20 it goes Biden. It does give you a sense of what's going on. But you are in a district, a senatorial district that is pretty significant Democrat, but you won your last election by
20 points.
20 points. How is that? Why is that? And maybe is there something some other Republicans should be paying attention to as they struggle to win elections post Dobbs decision?
Yeah. Well, look, I appeal to a broad swath of voters because I'm kind of the blue collar representative, if you will. Came up through the working ranks. I think I represent my district pretty well. And a lot of people can relate to me.
I think a lot of Republicans are hardcore right-wing thoughts. You call for the legalization of marijuana, for open primaries, an increase of the minimum wage. You're not your grandfather's Republican, perhaps?
Well, I guess not, right? But look, those are things that my constituents want. I think it's broadly popular with a lot of both Republicans and Democrats. I guess since I'm viewed a little bit as a unicorn down in Harrisburg, but out walking the streets of Erie, I fit right in.
Well, let's talk about legalization of marijuana, first of all. Recreational, adult use cannabis, I guess they call it. The governor's already calling for $160 million in this year's budget. Is that a little unrealistic given that it's not even legal yet?
Yeah, look, with all due respect, he's getting a little over his skis on that. I don't see that happening this year. I mean, we're working towards it.
And you're a guy that does want it, and you don't see it happening this year.
Right, we're working towards it, but I do not see that getting done before the end of the year.
But every state around us has it, so...
There's a double row of states around us. We're literally an island.
What do you say to people who, obviously addiction issues are a problem, and there are some people, we had him in our debate last night, James just mentioned it. Craig Williams says, I'm just not there yet. He had a brother died of an overdose. Started with marijuana in his view, went to worse things, and his feeling is that's the issue.
Well, look, I think if we're honest with ourselves, alcohol is a gateway drug, if you want to talk about that. But cannabis is already legal in Pennsylvania. You can go to your doctor, tell them your elbow bother, and you have stress, and for $50 you'll have a medical card.
Okay, we're going to leave it there for just a moment. We're coming back with State Senator Dan Laughlin. We're in Erie, beautiful here. Stay with us. We'll be right back.
And it is paid for by the Pennsylvania Chamber of Business and Industry.
What do Hershey Kisses, Martin guitars, Zippo lighters, Yingling lager, and Crayola crayons all have in common? They're all made right here in Pennsylvania. From guitars to batteries, spacecraft to motorcycles, cheesesteaks to pierogies, and self-driving cars to handcrafted snowboards, Pennsylvania is home to some of the most innovative and beloved products in the entire world. To celebrate our manufacturing dominance, the PA Chamber is launching the second annual Coolest Things Made in PA competition. This bracket-style contest includes 64 of Pennsylvania's top products and allows you to vote for your favorite on PA Chamber's Instagram and X pages. Voting starts at noon on March 19th, and we want you to get in on the action. Visit our website at pachamber.org to learn more.
And welcome back to This Week in Pennsylvania. We are in Erie in the studios of WJET, our sister station. We're with Erie Republican State Senator Dan Laughlin. On April 23rd, primary election in Pennsylvania. Yeah. Only Republicans can vote for Republicans, only Democrats for Democrats. You want to open those primaries.
Well, there's
Why?
a couple things, Dennis. First off, I'd like to move the primary up so Pennsylvania actually matters. There's that. But as far as the open primaries, if anybody's watching this show and your elections are always over by the time the primary's over, whether it's R or D, this bill would help you because it would involve more voters in areas where it's heavily right or left.
I agree, but why has it not happened? Is it the political class that doesn't want to see it happen?
It seems to be, Dennis. The party structure on both sides of the aisle is a little bit protective of their turf, so to speak. But in the 35 other states where we have open primaries, the sky hasn't fallen and the party system is alive and well.
Speaking of the sky not falling, there's such a fight over the minimum wage. People that want it, obviously, we're at $7.25, worst of every state around us in that regard. You have a bill that would increase that minimum wage. Why has that not happened? Because a lot of us have kids that make more than $7.25 an hour, and they're just kids.
Yeah. Look, we've passed minimum wage increases in the past through the Senate. It didn't make it all the way to the governor's house, so this is not uncharted territory. Quite frankly, if you look throughout the state, we're already well beyond $7.25 an hour. And from my standpoint, politically, let's just get it over with, take the victory lap, and move on.
Will that happen?
I'm expending a lot of political capital trying to get this done before the end of this session. I'm fairly hopeful that we can get there. I will say this, though, for this to happen, the governor's going to have to get involved in the negotiations. Quickly,
we only have a few seconds left. Be Erie bellwether, Trump, Biden. What happens?
I think Trump's going to win it this year. He won it in 2016, lost it in 2020, and I think people are looking more for the policies that he supports.
All right, Senator Laughlin, thanks so much for being with us. We sure appreciate it. Thanks to our folks here at WJET. Stay right there, though. More This Week in Pennsylvania when we come back.
Welcome back. The Democratic candidates for Pennsylvania Attorney General went head-to-head in a debate Tuesday right here in this studio. The big issues were violent crime, substance use disorder, and consumer protection. Alicia Richards has a recap.
This was the first time the 5 Democratic candidates for state attorney general faced off in a statewide televised debate. The first order of business, addressing the rise in violent crime. Delaware County DA Jack Stolzheimer says he dramatically reduced gun violence in the city of Chester.
The only city in my county used to be the most violent small city in America, certainly the most violent small city in Pennsylvania. Over the last 4 years, by bringing the community and police together, we've reduced the number of shootings by 72%.
Philadelphia County State Rep Jared Solomon is also a former JAG officer in the Army Reserves. He says he's taken on big fights to make communities safer.
To finally move common sense gun reform, like reducing high capacity clips, red flags laws, and an assault weapons ban. Secondly, we're investing in our communities, bringing back business corridors and making sure we're bringing youth and police together.
Former local and federal prosecutor Joe Kahn.
What we realized is that a disproportionate amount of the gun violence was being committed by a small group of people. We then used the power of our office to break up gun trafficking rings, to shut down gun shops.
Keir Bradford Gray was the chief public defender for Philadelphia and Montgomery County. The question, why should Pennsylvania choose a public defender as the state's top crime fighter?
Well, I'm running to be the people's lawyer, and that's what the Attorney General is in every other state other than Pennsylvania. It is a one that protects people at their very basic needs.
She adds that common sense gun laws must be enforced and guns are too easy to get.
We need to make sure that we go after gun retailers and suppliers and hold them to the same standards of scrutiny as we do people on the street corner making stupid decisions.
And she says a message needs to be sent to young people that guns are not cool. When it comes to investigating crime, former State Auditor General Eugene DePasquale points out, as Auditor General, he found serious deficits.
People know my record of fighting for Pennsylvania. It was my investigation that found over 3,000 untested rape kits. While working hard, I brought justice to victims. It was my investigation that found 58,000 unanswered phone calls at the child abuse hotline.
When it comes to helping Pennsylvanians overcome substance use disorder, 2 candidates had personal stories to tell.
The battle against addiction is personal to me. As I talked about earlier, my dad was wounded in Vietnam. That led to a 30-year battle with addiction, eventually a 10.5-year federal prison sentence.
Well, as you might imagine, this is personal for me too. I never met my grandfather, who suffered from addiction his whole life, and he lost his life when my mom was 10 years old.
Consumer protection is a major role for the state attorney general. Stolzheimer says he's ready to fight these fights.
Day one, when I became district attorney, I'm using that unit to sue big chemical companies as we speak for the PFAS, the forever chemicals they put in your drinking water, your bodies.
I'm going to take them all on. I've done this as a securities and antitrust lawyer, and this gets us back to where we're comfortable in the Democratic Party, back to our roots of taking on the corporate cheats.
This is a good indication of how much growth there is for Pennsylvania to get more involved in consumer protection issues. You know, we're one of only 2 states in the country that doesn't have an antitrust law, and that's really what has led me to step up for this office.
And our thanks to Alicia Richards for that. Now joining us are analysts Christopher Nicholas from Eagle Consulting and Brittany Crampsey from Britt Crampsey Communications. Thank you both for being here. So Brittany, let's just start with, who do you think won this debate?
I think it's hard to argue against Eugene's experience, having been a statewide row office holder for 2 terms, having won them with huge margins both times. He's a very compelling candidate if you're looking for the most qualified to move into November. But I think all 5 of them demonstrated a great grasp of the issues they're going to tackle as Attorney General. They have interesting, diverse backgrounds. I think that we really can't go wrong in this primary. And I don't know if any of you were left that feeling that any of them was unqualified or, not a candidate that we'd like to see on the ballot in November.
How about you, Christopher?
DePasquale has the name ID. Everybody is chasing him. Joe Kahn is the slickest. Stolzheimer, the Delco DA, is being backed by all the Shapiro people. Keir Bradford Gray, I think, is where the party would want to be, unencumbered by anything else. Jared Solomon is a fundraising machine. So it's going to be an interesting primary for Democrats across the state on April 23rd. And the one thing I think could be a wild card is Eugene DePasquale, the former Auditor General. He's the only candidate in the race from Western PA. The other 4 candidates are all clustered around Philadelphia, and there's always a regional breakout in statewide primaries.
Yeah, I was wondering about that. When you have a race like this, Attorney General, you kind of have a down ballot kind of a race. It's 5 candidates. What are people looking for? What are they voting on?
Well, they're voting top of the ticket down, really. So our row office is run in the same year as the presidential. So we have that obviously dominating the news coverage, dominating commercials when we get later in the season. We also have one of the most expensive, I expect, Senate races in the country with Bob Casey running for re-election. People may not be coming out to vote for the Attorney General candidate, but they're going to be looking for a name that they recognize, and I think that benefits Eugene very much. These candidates are not all going to get space on TV as we're seeing, all of these other races. So I think that, name ID is going to be very big, and then a good performance in events like these.
So the Democrats have primaries for all 3 row office campaigns, as you call them, Attorney General, Auditor General, and Treasurer. So Democrats statewide have a lot more choices in front of them on their ballot than Republicans do.
All right, speaking of Republicans, we're going to talk about that debate when we come right back. Stay with us. Welcome back. This week, we also hosted the Republican candidates running for state attorney general. They tackled big issues including crime, drugs and addiction, human trafficking, and more. Here's Valerie Pritchett.
Republican candidates vying for Pennsylvania Attorney General tackled topics right away, like crime, an ongoing issue across Pennsylvania. State Rep. Craig Williams planned to attack it,
which is to involve every law enforcement agency, the district attorney, the attorney general's office, and the local U.S. attorney to go after felons in possession of guns.
York County District Attorney Dave Sunday.
That is one of the #1 issues. And so we have to prosecute, arrest, charge, prosecute people for illegal possessions of firearms. Because until that's done, we are never going to see a change. And we in York do that, and it has to be swift.
Then to opioid and fentanyl, called a crisis in Pennsylvania. Williams shared his loss of a loved one to drug addiction and this.
There is no reason for us to let up on prosecuting and enforcing the law when it comes to drug distribution.
And you must go after the supply. And I have increased the number of detectives in our drug task force. We have brought in additional resources. We have prosecuted people for drug delivery resulting in death. We're one of the top counties in the state.
With over 800 charges of human trafficking in 2022, how would they combat it?
We have to remember that it is absolutely critical that we go after the people that are putting the money into this. That's who we have to go after, the people that are funding the human trafficking operations.
That's one way, is deterrence and awareness. You asked about the Attorney General's office, and that they sit at the crossroads of federal prosecution and local county prosecution to get involved in these large task force to make sure that information is being shared. It's the information that's being shared that is the most important part of deterring sex trafficking.
Both did agree on one thing when it comes to suing nursing homes over COVID.
Absolutely, if they broke the compacts that were being put in place. But I'm more concerned about those facilities that locked those seniors down and put them into situations that actually further endanger their health while presumably trying to protect them from the virus.
I think that they should be open to lawsuits, yes, if all of the facts and circumstances are satisfied in accordance with the law. I think that if that's the case, then they should be.
There were some tense moments.
Very simply, serious lawyers read things called transcripts. And until that transcript has been read, then I don't think there really is anything to even talk about at this point.
Okay, we have to take a quick time out.
He's called me an unserious lawyer.
In closing,
can you tell us one thing you admire about your opponent, Dave Sunday?
I admire his ability to run for so many offices at the same time.
Mr. Williams, one thing you admire about your opponent?
I am grateful for his military service, even though he couldn't find something nice to say about me.
All right, our thanks to Valerie Pritchett for that. So this was the only debate in our cycle here that was actually one-on-one. So Christopher, let's start with you. Who won this one? The gloves are off.
Well, they have 2 very different types of experience, both I think equally compelling. Obviously the logistics and tone and tenor of a one-on-one debate are different than a five-way debate like the Democrats had. I think Dave Sunday was smart to, on pretty much every occasion he could, remind people that he was endorsed by the Pennsylvania Republican Party. That carries a lot more weight in my party than the Democratic endorsement does in Brittany's party. So that was smart of him. Craig Williams, I think, took it to Dave Sunday on some cases in your county, and that's kind of the traditional thing you do when you're running against a prosecutor. It's hard to say you're bad overall, so you pick 2 or 3 cases that you think can personify what the attacks are you want. So kind of standard stuff for both of them.
I'm not going to vote for either of them, but if I were a Republican watching this, I would be surprised that State Party is behind Dave Sunday. I think Craig Williams had a much better performance. I think he was far more professional, more prepared, a better presence. I think he looked like the better candidate here, and if I'm the PA GOP, I might be scrambling a little bit, worrying about what that endorsement's going to carry into November.
So watching this debate, you have a clear choice between these two candidates, and as we said, this is the only one that was one-on-one. Things did get pretty tense at moments, especially the ending there when they were asked to say something nice about each other. We caught up with both of those candidates after the debate. Take a listen.
Would you have changed that if you thought it had more time to think about it, or?
No, I don't think I would have. I'm, of course, disappointed in it, but I'm not surprised by Dave Sunday.
So again, you see, I mean, really no love lost there between these two candidates.
Again, it's a one-on-one battle. You know, if you're in a 2-person race and I attack you, the only other place people have to go when they vote is me. When it's a multiple candidates, that's not how it works. So it tends to be more reticent. I think by the end of the campaign, you'll have Democrats attacking each other. I think the Republicans will be more likely to start doing that at the beginning of their campaigns.
I don't think Chris is wrong, but I think it's a little bit bigger than that. This is the tone and timbre of the Republican Party nationally. It's name-calling, it's nastiness, it's very personal attacks. I think this is a top-down look at the Republican Party, that they can't focus on the substance and on the issues and on the things people care about. So they're devolving into these personal attacks against each other, and I don't leave that impressed.
I'm glad you agreed with me. They haven't done any name-calling yet. So I would take that one back.
All right, and that is going to do it for us. Thank you so much for being here. Great discussion, great debates. You can watch all of the debates at abc27.com. Thank you so much for watching.